Well, we're on our way to 50,000. We're on track. I think we'll just barely make 50,000 if we keep going like we're going. Last time, so basically the 50,000 mark, we're going to tear apart some sort of product that you guys choose that's $500 or under. I asked you in the last video, the Timberland video, like kind of which product you want, and I would say 95% of the comments are about my cat. So we won't be tearing apart my cat, contrary to some people's requests. And I'd say that the top 3 requests we had were Allen Edmond boots, Blundstone boots, and well, I guess everyone also wants me to fix the D on the DuPont sign. And then the other most requested product was the RM Williams boots. So let me know which ones you guys want me to do most out of those 3, the RM Williams, Blundstone, and Allen Edmond. So let's open this up and start doing our thing. Speaking of my cat making all that noise, Toasty boy. My cat's name's Toaster, by the way. Everyone keeps asking what my cat's name is. His name's Toaster and he's a Devon Rex, and he's adorable. I know, I get it. Everyone likes him more than me, it's fine. So these are the boots that we're gonna be looking at today, tonight, this morning, whatever. It's the 8i Derby boots in Oxblood by Solovair. They're pretty much the exact same boot as the made in England Doc Marten boots that we reviewed before. And that's basically what we're gonna be comparing it to today. But these are $210 online, at least for the US version of their site. There's kind of a history between Solovair and Doc Marten, because Solovair's parent company, NPS, in 1959 started producing Doc Marten's boots for him, and they basically produced them for 35 years till the mid 90s, and then they kind of parted ways, and I think Doc Marten went more towards a foreign production instead of an English production. So, and then for NPS, instead of just closing up shop and selling all their equipment, they made Solovair, which is, and I think this is true, I just read this online, the word Solovair, I thought it was some fancy word, but what I read is it's just a fancier spelling of soul of air, kind of like their whole airwear bouncing soles. So that's kind of a interesting tidbit. I don't know if that's true or not, but I read it somewhere on the internet, and so that's probably true. But anyway, so they worked together until 95, and then Solovair continued to produce their own boots with the same or similar soles and the same lasts and the same equipment that they used to make Doc Martens with. So a lot of people consider Solovairs the real Doc Martens. So let's cut this open. Okay, we got it cut in half. Let's see what's inside. There's a few things that are slightly different than the Doc Marten boots that we've torn apart. The first thing that I noticed was that there's no pad for the ball of your foot like all the other Doc Marten boots. Another thing I noticed was there is a shank in this one. It's the wood shank that people talk about with the old school Doc Martens. It's still a wood shank, and you know, wood breaks pretty easy. So, but let's tear the guts out of this and see what the difference is. So I learned some really interesting stuff while taking this apart. I kept cutting these silver stitches and trying to pull it apart, but nothing was happening. Because like in the previous ones, like these made in England Doc Martens, as soon as I popped this yellow stitch, the whole thing started to come unraveled. But I was cutting these outside stitches and nothing was happening. And then I started pulling on it more, and I realized there was another set of stitching that held the welt, which is this part that's on top of the sole, held that to the boot itself. And then when I finally got it apart, I realized that this silver stitching that you see on the outside doesn't actually stitch anything. It's more of a decorative stitch. And the stitch that holds the welt to the boot is actually kind of a blind hidden stitch that you can't see because it's stitched underneath of the welt. I think I like that a lot better than the Made in England boots, because in the long run, the Made in England boots are gonna have a lot more potential of popping these stitches and loosening the welt from the boot. Versus these ones, it would be pretty hard to wear these stitches out because they're hidden underneath of the welt, and there's really nowhere for like the environment, the weather to get to it, and it's a lot more protected. So really interesting. But let's continue cutting this thing apart. We got the welt off. Came off about as hard as the Made in England ones. I kept ripping up on it, like the welt itself started ripping before it started ripping away from the boot, which I think is a good sign. So now let's look at all the different parts, lay them out and see kind of a side-by-side comparison of the two different boots, and do a little side-by-side comparison. So first thing, let's talk about the counter. So on the Made in England boots, it's a bonded leather counter. The Solovair boots it's some sort of fiberboard, and it's got a coating, or it's got a layer of fabric over top. I think the fabric is to help prevent slipping of the heel, versus these Made in England ones is pretty smooth, so it's not really gonna do much. It's more for structure. I think I like the Solovair counter better. I think it's probably gonna last longer and prevent a lot less heel slip. So the Solovair is the only one that has any kind of insole, and it's just like a suede. I think it's more for looks than anything. I don't think it's gonna really cause, or it's not gonna really add any comfort. And then we go to the fiberboard that the welt is kind of welted to. It's actually the exact same fiberboard. It's kind of like that cardboard, the high density cardboard, fiberboard, Texon stuff. And now we get down to the midsole, like the stuff that gives the boot more of its comfort. The Made in England boots has kind of a really thin felted fabric that's not very dense, that compresses down to about 3 millimeters, versus the other one is a lot stiffer and it's a lot harder and a lot more dense. And this one compresses down to 4 millimeters, so it's a little bit thicker. Next to the welting, the Made in England pair of boots, the welt itself is very similar, but the way the welt is sewn onto the boot is really different. And we kind of talked about that earlier. And then to the actual sole itself. So the sole on the Solovair is a little thicker, and it has a lot more substance to it. In the heel on the Solovair, it has a lot more open cells in it. The Made in England one has like a lot tighter grid pattern in it, and I like that better, but I like the overall sole better of the Solovair. As for the leather between the two boots, I think that the Solovair boots have a better leather. It's a tighter grain pattern. It's not quite as fuzzy on the backside, which could be just the particular pair of boots I have cut from a different part of the hide. But the Solovairs are a little bit thicker, like 0.5 millimeter thicker. They both are a finished leather, which doesn't mean it's a bad leather. It's just that shiny finished look, and that's kind of what Doc Martens are known for. So it's dyed all the way through, which some people might like more than the Made in England Doc Martens. I kind of like the two-tone look of these. And I'm pretty sure that the black Derbys, they're dyed all the way through too, so that might help differentiating the two and helping you make a decision. So if I had to make a decision between the two of these boots, I think for quality, I would go with the Solovair. I think that the sole is better. I think that the materials it's made out of, like the midsole, is a little bit better quality. The leather's better. I think the welt is better. It's got that blind stitching on it, which I think is a stronger welt than the Made in England Doc Martens. For overall look of the boot, I think I like the Made in England Doc Martens better, because they kind of have that classic Doc Marten look with the yellow stitching, and I like the two-tone leather, and I like the shape of the boot better. You know, I don't think you can really go wrong with either boot. I still think that they're both decent boots. They're both around the same price. They're both made in England, but let me know what you guys think and which boot you prefer and which boot you think is better. If you want to see some really good videos of somebody who's actually worn both boots for an extended period of time and not just cut them up immediately after they buy them. DevonReviews is a really good resource for that. He's worn all sorts of Doc Marten and Solovair boots and kind of compared and contrasted them. He's also an Englishman who speaks far more eloquently than me. So check out his channel. I'll put a link to his channel in the description so you guys can check him out. And we're on our way to 50K, so let me know which product you guys want me to tear apart for our 50K. But we got to get there before New Year's, so like and subscribe and comment, scribe and lamab and comment, because that's the only way we'll get there. And I think the next few videos, I'm gonna do a video on suede versus nubuck, and I'm gonna buy it the not premium, yeah, premium pair. What are they called? I'm gonna buy the nicer pair of the Timberlands so we can do a side-by-side comparison. And I guess onward and upward, and hopefully I'm gonna get some sleep. See, this video took a lot longer to film than I thought. It's 1 in the morning and I haven't even started editing, and I need to post it in 5 hours. So by the time you see this, I will just be crawling in bed. So wish me luck. See ya.
Martens better because